bringing to you live today this chicken tortilla soup. So we've got 3 registered dietitian students over from TCU. Say hi, y'all.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So we've got these dietetic students joining us today. They're going to be cooking us this chicken tortilla soup. It's their very unique, creative, and delicious take on creating this tortilla soup for those who have diabetes and trying to better manage their health. They're going to explain all of that. In the meantime, before I pass it over to them, I need you to do a few things. So if you're joining us live in this event here today, please go ahead and hit like on the box below. So hit like, throw your questions in the chat if you have questions about certain ingredients, if you want to know about the recipe overall, if you want to understand why it is healthy, any kind of questions you have, please put them in the box. We're going to put these students on this test live in front of you to get them to answer these questions that you may have about this particular recipe. Again, we're coming to you live from TCU today, and we are cooking this chicken tortilla soup. It's a healthy take on the conventional tortilla soup, and they're going to go into why exactly this one is extra special and healthy and also delicious. So with that, I'm going to hand it over, y'all. So if you want to provide brief introductions and tell us what you're doing today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Estrada.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Claire.
And we're all TCU seniors studying nutrition, like Shireen said. We're going to be making a really healthy and diabetes-friendly creamy chicken tortilla soup for you guys. And it can be made very diabetes-friendly with some small modifications.
Okay, that sounds great. And so are we diving into the recipe now?
Okay, so our recipe is, like Shireen said, a chicken tortilla soup. This is great for people with diabetes because it's high in fiber, which is going to help your blood sugar throughout the day. That's very filling too. It'll keep you full for a long time. Same with the protein. It's got good protein in it. It'll keep you full. The theme of today is reducing and replacing. So we're reducing sodium and we're replacing fat. So like I said, that's going to be chicken. That's a lean protein. We took out the sour cream and replaced it with some Greek yogurt. So that's going to be lower in fat. So one thing I wanted to point out is we are going to be using beans. Can you zoom in a little bit? So we're going to be using reduced sodium or no salt added ingredients here. So you want to look for these when you're using your canned goods. That's how we're going to be reducing our sodium in this. Another great thing about this compared to purchasing soups is that we're reducing sodium by controlling how much salt that we're putting in it. That's something that you can't do whenever you buy it from the store. So okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. We've already got our chicken in the pot over there. And like I said, we had our canned beans, so those are already in there. I've already prepped some bell peppers that are in there. I'm going to go ahead and continue to prep this onion. So onion, bell peppers, these are adding a lot of flavors, a lot of antioxidants, and a lot of colors. So we had a group last week, I think. Their program was Eat the Rainbow. The whole focus of that was eating colorful foods that have all the phytonutrients and phytochemicals that are those cancer-preventing compounds and all of that good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go add all of this stuff to the to our soup bowl, and I'm going to let Claire come in.
Okay, and in the meantime, by the time Claire comes in, I'd love to learn from you, what is that difference between the red bell pepper and yellow bell pepper? Are we talking about nutritional difference between the two?
There actually, there's a slight micronutrient difference. But generally, they're actually the same pepper. They're just at a different stage of ripeness. I forget the order. Eric, do you remember the order of the ripeness?
Yes, it'll start off with green, and as the pepper becomes more and more ripe, it'll go between orange, yellow, and red. So it starts off as green and then progresses through the colors.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. All right, Claire, you're up.
Hello. Today we will be making some homemade taco seasoning, and this will contribute to our theme of reducing and replacing. A lot of the taco seasonings you'll find at the store do have a lot of sodium, including the ones that even say low sodium on them. So you do want to make sure to check that nutrition facts label to see the differences between the sodium. So once again, we will be making our homemade taco seasoning. We have 5 different seasonings in front of me. We have some dried oregano, so I'll be dumping that into the bowl. Onion powder, garlic powder, ground cumin.
Claire, sorry, could you bring the bowl up closer so we can see as you're adding it in? Thank you. Yep, just tilt it a little. Yep, thank you.
And then lastly, chili powder. So I'm just going to mix this up. Once again, really simple and easy recipe. It might be a little expensive as you check out at a grocery store, but it is it's a very low cost recipe for taco seasoning every recipe you make. And you can add the seasonings to your pantry and use them in other recipes as well. So I'm going to add this to our soup just to add that extra flavor while reducing the sodium, as we did not include any salt. Now Eric will talk about the chicken stock.
Yes, so like Claire was saying, our recipe does use vegetable stock. So a really good thing that you could do with vegetable stock is actually have a bag of treasure, is what we like to call it. And treasure is basically just any vegetables that can add flavor to a stock. So things like carrots, onions, garlic, and any other greens that you have. So whenever let's say you're cutting an onion like Jordan was earlier, you can just use the end of that onion and save it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it for later. And to make your own vegetable stock that can be made with pretty much no salt, you can just put it in a freezer bag, and once you have enough, you can actually just pop it into a large pot and fill that pot up with water. And you'll just simmer all of the vegetables that you have in your bag for about 5 to 6 hours. You'll see that there is a different color change, and it'll start smelling a lot like vegetables. And that's pretty much your vegetable stock. So our recipe uses vegetable stock today, and we were able to use the homemade stock that we had. And just by doing that, you can reduce your sodium by a lot, because store-bought vegetable stocks, or even things like chicken broth, will have a lot of sodium in it if it doesn't specifically say either low sodium or no salt added. So that's a really good tip. If a recipe ever calls for vegetable stock, just remember that you can make that all for yourself at home, and it'll be really diabetes friendly by having pretty much no salt in it if you don't add any in there.
That's great. And so Eric, you mentioned that this is something that you can just keep adding to the bag. So let's say I'm chopping onions today, chopping another vegetable tomorrow. I can just keep saving it, throw it in that bag, and then just throw it in the freezer from there.
Yep, and as long as it's in the freezer, they won't go bad or anything. So just make sure that as long as it's in the freezer, everything will be okay. If it's in the fridge, it might go bad, and that's not necessarily food safe. So definitely keep it in a bag in the freezer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And next up, I'm going to be making some tortilla chips to go with our soup. So another good thing that we could do with tortilla chips is actually just make them ourselves. And that way we can not add any salt if you don't want to. We can add any seasonings like Claire was showing us earlier, and make them as flavorful or as plain as we want to make them. And I love making my own tortilla chips, either baked or in oil, like I'll be showing you guys. Because you can pretty much have any control over the oil you're using and the seasonings that you're using. And it's super easy. So you can just grab your tortillas. I do 2 at a time, so you can stack them up and grab a knife, and you can just go across in half, stack them on top of each other, and cut across as well. And if you see, now you have the classic tortilla chip shape. And if the camera wants to follow me, I can go ahead and flop them in our oil. All right, and in a pan that has hot oil in it, make sure it's not super hot because it can start popping on you and you can get hurt like that. So just make sure that it's warm oil. You want it to be a little bit hot, but not too much, like I was saying. So as long as you heat it up for a little bit, we are using olive oil. You can use pretty much any type of oil that you would like. And you just slowly pop them in. And these are made super, super quick. So as long as your oil is hot, you can have tortilla chips almost instantly.
And this is just starting out with pre-made corn tortillas. You just took those, cut them in quarters, and then you're just dropping it in oil. And just so we have an understanding, this is not like deep frying.
No, it's not. We're just putting them into oil. There's not a ton in the pan, so you can just control as much oil as you want. Okay,
sounds great. And so while those are heating up, just a quick plug again, if you're joining us, you're enjoying this recipe so far, please go, go at the bottom there where we're over here. Go at the bottom, hit like, share this video in your feed. Drop in the comments. Let us know what you think about this recipe so far. Is it delicious? Is it, what would you do differently? Of course, we're providing you all the different modifications that we would do, but what would you do differently in this recipe? How would you spice things up? Maybe a little bit different. Absolutely fine. Total room for, different types of customization here. So let us know what you think. If you would share this video, again, comment below. So we're just going to keep asking questions to these students, ask them exactly more questions about this recipe. If you want to know about the tortilla chips, the chicken stocks, the vegetable stock so far, or the chicken, or how the seasoning was created, all these things that we're doing this recipe. If you have any questions about, definitely let us know.
And these tortilla chips are starting to harden up. You can just flip them as much as you would like. I like them to be a little bit more crispy, so I'll probably leave them in for a little bit longer. But you can control pretty much as you want with these chips. This is a great part about them.
All right, so we got a question, Era from Suleiman. She says, can we make these tortilla chips with any kind, like corn or blue corn tortilla?
Yep, you can use pretty much any kind that you want. There is some consistency differences between the different type of tortillas. So just as long as you're monitoring them and making sure they're not like breaking apart or anything, you can use pretty much any tortilla that you want.
I wanted to come in and talk about the cost of this recipe. It's only $2.42 for a serving, and it's 281 calories, 27 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, which is really low, and 27 grams of carbs. So for any of the carb exchange counters, that's 2 carb units. So that's a pretty good exchange.
All right, so my tortilla chips are done, and I just put them on a plate for later.
And then do you wait for them to cool down?
Yes, we can just leave them off the side. There won't be too much oil on them, but you just want to make sure that everything is cooling off and you won't burn yourself.
Great.
And then we're just putting our pan with our hot oil in it to the side. And we're done with our tortilla chips.
Lovely. What's next?
All right, so next up, Claire is going to teach us how to plate the soup.
All right, so we made our chicken tortilla soup, and this is just a ladle from the pot. So it's really good. You see lots of color from all the vegetables and some chicken, which is a lean source of protein. Soup is a great way to hydrate, has a lot of water in it, and it also makes a great leftover. So it's a great idea for a lunch or a dinner. So our theme is reducing and replacing. So we are reducing fat and salt in our soup. So we reduce saturated fat, as there is some in half and half, or sour cream. So once again, we decided to use yogurt just to add that creamy aspect. So I'm going to add some of that, a little dollop on the top. You might not think it will go well, but it actually tastes very similar to sour cream. Once you mix it up, it's just like creamy tortilla soup. Next, we'll be adding some avocado. Avocado, the main source of fat is monounsaturated fat. It also provides about 3 grams of fiber per serving, which is a great source. One thing about avocados is that it has a lot of grooves on it. So when you cut it, you want to make sure you wash it and dry it with a towel, a paper towel, so you can get all the bacteria out of that groove. So when you cut it, it doesn't get into the inside of the avocado. And then lastly, we are adding some cilantro just to top. It adds a lot of flavor without adding a lot of salt. It's just another herb to add. And as you can see, it really adds to the presentation, and it just looks really good, and that makes you want to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our final product, replacing, reducing to make lower in fat and salt into your favorite recipes.
I love it. This looks great. And I see like the mist coming out of there, so it's making us hungry over here. What does it smell like over there?
It smells so good.
That's lovely. That's looking great. We got another question from Suleiman who's asking, can we add black beans to it?
Absolutely. We actually have black beans in our recipe. We have black beans and red beans, so 2 different kinds of beans. And again, legumes, another word for beans. Legumes are just really good for high in fiber, and all the ancient peoples of the world all eat legumes in their diet. So that's just something to think about.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay. And so just to really quickly recap all the different ingredients that went in. So you started out with the onions. So walk me through that again.
Yeah, so we had a pot boiling with some water, and we added some crushed tomatoes. You can buy that either in a can, or just, we had a fresh tomato and we diced that up. One thing about cans is that you do want to make sure it says low sodium or no salt added. That is a product that tends to be higher in salt content. So we added some salt, some tomatoes, some corn, some black beans. Once again, like Jordan said, high in fiber, and with beans paired with a carbohydrate such as rice is a complete protein. So it is a vegetarian source of protein. And then we added some onion, as you saw Jordan cut up, with some bell peppers. We added that to the pot. We made some homemade taco seasoning, no salt added, some chicken, and then we topped it with our 3 toppings.
Mm-hmm. And then super healthy because the broth doesn't have extra sodium. The beans, while they're canned, again, just a low sodium, no sodium option there. And also the seasoning that you used, again, no sodium there. So it's really taking that sodium level down, right? How is this, and I know y'all mentioned this earlier, but how is this recipe diabetes friendly? I know you made a few substitutions. So walk us through exactly what makes us diabetes friendly.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that it's diabetes friendly is that we took out that high fat sour cream and replaced it with the Greek yogurt, which is we used a 0% fat Greek yogurt, so there's no fat in that at all. And then there's also, again, talking about protein being very important. There's a lot more protein in Greek yogurt than sour cream. Then we added chicken to it, so that's another another good protein source that's lean, so another low-fat protein source. People with diabetes need to stay away from sodium for many reasons, but again, we just talked about all the ways that we controlled the sodium in our recipe, and then lots of fiber in the vegetables, especially in the beans. And that's one of the very important factors in controlling your blood sugar from it keeps your blood sugar from spiking.
Lovely. Okay. And so last comment here from Sue. Sue was saying, we'll be trying this soon.
All right. Thanks, Sue. Sounds good.
Lovely. Well, thank y'all so much. This was lots of fun. I can just imagine the aroma around you. I am totally jealous, y'all. But y'all go ahead and enjoy that tortilla soup for us. Thank y'all so very much for making this recipe, for walking us through that. Really, at the end of the day, healthy food doesn't have to be bland. It can be delicious. It can be it can be delicious and healthy at the same time. So we don't have to pick one or the other. It can be both. And just small changes. So we don't have to overhaul our entire diet and just eat grilled chicken or just eat salads all day long, because that can be a little bit much, right? So we can enjoy the foods that we love eating, but we just have to make small substitutions, and that can take us a long way.
Absolutely, Shireen, you're right.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Claire, for walking us through this recipe again. Really, really enjoyed this. Y'all, thank you for watching. This was lots of fun. This concludes our series, at least for a little bit of time, with TCU students here. This was third in the series if you've been following along with us. This concludes our series. We had a fun time collaborating with TCU on this. Thank you so much to the TCU staff there. From the bottom of my heart, this was lots of fun. Thank y'all so much, and we will see you next time. Stay tuned to Yumlish. Let us know if there's certain recipes that you would like to see in the future. We will get that whipped up for you in another Facebook Live demo. Thank you, y'all, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.